This is the second time I borrow and review a Formex watch. This one is an all-black skeletonized ceramic essence variant called the Ceramica. What are Formex thinking? Let's dive in. I don't do reviews often, it's not the core of my channel, but every now and again I enjoy trying my hand at it. I don't keep the watch, I don't get any money, I don't have any affiliate links, and Formex has no say in the video. They see the video at the same time as you. I also don't care whether or not you buy this watch or any other watch from the brand. I just find this watch interesting, so I'm talking about it. The Formex Essence Ceramica is a 41mm Formex Essence in full black ceramic. It's got a height of 11.2 millimeters. It's got a lug width of 22 millimeters. It's got a lug to lug of 46.4 millimeters. It's water resistant to 100 meters. The movement is a COSC certified Celita SW200 with 41 hours of power reserve. The watch is zirconium oxide ceramic through and through. The bracelet tapers, and on the model I have, you get both a quick release and easy adjust mechanism. The case has got the standard Formex suspension system. Since the beginning of Formex in 1999, the patented case suspension system has been sort of an integrated part of the Essence model. The idea behind it is to absorb shocks to protect the mechanical movement from heavy impacts. It also adds to the comfort on the wrist by flexing with the wearer's movements. 41 millimeters, 11.6 millimeters, 46.4 millimeters. You know that I don't care that much about measurements, but those numbers are on paper at least good numbers for a lot of wrists. On the wrist, this watch lives up to the expectations. I mean, come on, this watch looks good on my wrist. It's got presence, but it doesn't dominate. Ceramic, I know, isn't soft, but there's a smoothness to ceramic that makes for a really pleasant feel on the skin. We're dealing with a light material and a reflective material, which gives it a very different feel compared to a regular steel watch. There are parts of the watch that are brushed and not fully polished, but it is the softness and the shine that really comes through. I'm not talking about looks here, it's about how it feels on the wrist. The easy adjust is a good one. Personally, I've always felt the suspension system is a bit of a gimmick, but I know from previous videos that a lot of users really appreciate it and feel it makes a noticeable difference. We are about to get to the point where we talk about my likes and dislikes of the watch. I've also got some broader thoughts about the watch, but if you're still with me, you've either fallen asleep or you're liking the video. If so, then consider letting me know by leaving a like, a subscribe, or both. That's the way I know I'm doing something worthy of your time. Thanks. And if you're sleeping, keep sleeping. Totally cool. I'm fine with that. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I have to say it. Formex engineer really good watches. For those of you who don't know, Formex is run by a team that is connected to especially two companies, Dexel and Cadranor. Dexel makes watch cases and bracelets. Cadranor make dials. These two companies make cases, bracelets, and dials for brands like Girard-Perregaux, Hublot, and other high-end brands. You'll also find Dexel and Cadranor parts in mid-range brands from other huge conglomerates. You can tell that the quality of the skill that goes into their high-end supplies to brands like Girard-Perregaux also are being put into a watch like this. The build quality is superb. Polish is superb. The quick adjust is excellent. When you go to the dial, this is one of the technically best skeletonized Celitas I've ever seen. There's a sharpness and a precision and a detail to the work that you don't often see at this price point. I'd go so far as to say that comparing this with the sheer machining work that goes into a Tudor Alinghi, which is carbon, but still, this watch comes across as significantly more premium. Compared to the Tudor Alinghi Chrono, it's priced about the same with a material that is more expensive to work with. I've seen watches at much higher price points where this Formex is entirely on par. But, and if you're a regular on my channel, you know I'm not generally a fan of skeletonized dials. And it's for two reasons. First, skeletonized dials are really hard to do well. There's often an issue with legibility. There's also often an issue with the dial just being a little bit too overwhelming visually. Now, the Formex is reasonably legible. It's also far better than something like the Tag Heuer Monaco or Monza Monaco, which I often refer to. I prefer this watch over the aesthetic of many skeletonized Ulysse Nardins, but it's not going to wow me personally. I would far and away prefer a flat, old-fashioned dial. As for my second problem with skeletonization, it's just that it's a little bit of a gimmick that companies sometimes use to prove how technically skilled they can be. It's an approach to signaling skill that just sometimes goes a little bit overboard and has a tendency to emphasize technical competence over aesthetic. But I'll get back to that because I'm telegraphing some of my thoughts. Then there's the price. I like the price. As consumers, we often get strong reactions about pricing. The one extreme is when you see the price of an Omega or a Tudor or a Rolex and someone shouts, the margin of the watch is huge, it's all profit, it doesn't cost this much to make. And the other end of the extreme is the comment of, Christopher Ward or Longines or whoever are really pumping their prices. They were much better when they were affordable. But here's the thing. COSC certification, fully ceramic, skeletonization is expensive to do. Formex would not be making a profit selling this watch at the same price as a regular Essence. And Formex doesn't have the brand equity to make the same bananas multiples on the cost. To me, this is an incredibly reasonable price for what goes into this watch. A ceramic time and date IWC Pilot is $10,000. A ceramic Tudor on a strap costs $5,000. This is a reasonable price. It's just something I think people will feel is a lot for the Formex brand, but I really don't think it is. Now, who's it for? This is a limited edition watch. There are 4 options. They're all black, they're all skeletonized, they're all ceramic. This is a niche product. It's for the ultimate Formex fan, and it's for the person that wants something that stands out and is the watch that the other people wouldn't choose. It's a lot of money for a brand that, relatively speaking, is not that well known. But the people buying this watch likely either know the brand or know what kind of work goes into this type of watch. I don't see this watch selling a ton to casual watch buyers. You have to seek this kind of thing out. And for those people, they are getting a lot of watch for their money. On my scale, from grail to buy to shortlist to think about it to better options out there, I say for the right person, this is a shortlist option. Personally, it's not going to be for me, but if I can ever convince them to do what I've done here in a render, which is a green and gold one, I'm going to call it the Springbok, then they would likely have my money. Unfortunately, that's only me that can do that. Probably never going to happen, but you can dream. Which brings me to my broader thoughts. A while ago, I did a video where I spoke about how a watch is made up of 5 elements. It's the manufacturing quality, it's the movement manufacturing quality, it's the craft, which you could call the level of handmade artisanal skill, it's the creativity in the design, and it's the brand identity. A key point from that video was that different brands leverage these 5 levers in different ways. So high-end brands need to be high on all 5, but as you go down in price, you have to compromise on some things and invest your time in other things. So there's a brand that shall not be named. Yes, you'll have to guess. But they've thrown a ton of effort into creativity in terms of dial designs and a lot into the associated brand identity. There's very little, not none, but little investment in standing out in terms of manufacturing quality or movement high-endedness. Rolex, on the other hand, in my opinion, are not particularly strong on creativity and design. Well, they are in terms of they've been around for a long time, but renewal is not really them. But they are masters in manufacturing, both watch, case style bracelet and movements. And then there's Formex. I think you can make a case for how Formex are manufacturing-wise head and shoulders ahead of everybody else at similar price points. Because of the connection to Dexel and Catalan, because the people behind Formex come from a production and engineering environment, they are A, not afraid to do something technically challenging, and B, they are capable of doing something to an incredibly high standard for a surprisingly reasonable price. That's what this Formex represents. Some of the strongest manufacturing for the price. If someone with the comments knocks their manufacturing quality, I would be inclined to question their frame of reference. They literally are that good. At least I think so. But sometimes it can potentially be a little bit much. The Stratos, which was released a while back, was an example of this. The technique that went into that pusher-based UTC GMT was really impressive, but it was a bit busy. Let's just call it that. Now, the Ceramica is visually way superior to the Stratos, but I do think that the skeletonized dial was, for me at least, a step too far. It's technically really impressive, but I would have preferred a plain Sunray or maybe a gold-plated meteorite dial. The last option might maybe have made it more expensive, but that's the one I would want. Anyways, I often look at a company and ask myself if the company is design-led or engineering-led. You can usually tell in the product depending on what they emphasize. For me, Formex is so clearly engineering-led, and I stand by the assertion that it puts their watches at the front of the pack more often than not in terms of quality. But sometimes the aesthetic feels like it's too much about showing what they can do, where less probably for more customers would be more. They've got this clear passion for what they are technically capable of doing, and sometimes that gets shoehorned into some of their products. Now, that often leads to hits as well. In the Essence, they got a gold-plated meteorite dial that was a massive hit. And meteorite and gold plating is actually kind of hard to do. But here, it's everything. It's got ceramic, it's got skeleton, it's got black. Less, I think, would have been more. And for me, the dial would have been the spot where a design-led team and not an engineering-led team would have said, it's great, but it's dialed it back a little bit. But then again, it might be something they'll do next year. A lot of brands release new watches where the first year is in funny colors and special designs, and then in year 2, that's when you get the blue dial. Just think of IWC and the Ingenieur. First year was not with the blue dial, second year was. Think also of the new Black Bay from Tudor, came out in burgundy. That means next year we're getting the blue one. It's important for me to state, though, that I've shown this watch to quite a few people and several of them liked it. They like the black, they like the skeletonization. Aesthetics are subjective, but I don't think it changes the fact that the brand that shall not be named is very good at design and creativity. Formex's clear strength is in their manufacturing. Their design is good, but it's not their competitive advantage, to quote Michael Porter. If I took this watch as it is now and put it side by side with essentially the same watch, but swapped out the dial with the gold meteorite dial, I think the gold meteorite would outsell by a fair margin. I think I probably have to shoehorn a food metaphor into this, and it's about the artisanal hot dog. A Central Park hot dog has its, strengths and weaknesses, but it's honestly not great. A good hot dog with good organic meat, a better bun, homemade toppings is delicious. But some companies start throwing truffles and gold leaf and caviar on the hot dog. It's impressive, but did it really need the caviar? That was my first thought, just dialing back the engineering forward approach. Second thought, I believe that all brands have a price anchor. It's a range where customers feel that for the particular brand, the price is reasonable. So $7,000 for a Swatch would seem wrong to most people. $30,000 for a steel Rolex will also seem wrong. But $4,000 for a Rolex would feel like a bargain. We've got an anchor for all brands. Now, this poses an interesting dilemma for brands. Obviously, they have to raise prices on occasion to keep up with inflation, and I don't think the anchor necessarily moves at the same pace as inflation. But also, what if they want to do something really cool that costs a little bit extra to produce? That can be hard if the cost of doing something really cool pushes the sales price outside of the range of the customer's normal price anchor. This is where a Formex Ceramica comes in, or a CW12X or a CW Loco. You make a watch that is so specced out in terms of design and engineering and features that it's above what customers would usually expect from this price point in general. And you sell it, not necessarily at a loss, but you probably discount it a little compared to your usual markup. Why? Because these watches speak to enthusiasts who praise the brands. These watches are more likely to get mentioned in the media, so you get more traffic to your other products. And even if you discount them a little from your regular markup model, the watch works to move the customer's anchor of what is a reasonable price range for your brand as a whole. These watches help you move the needle or the anchor, and that allows you to come out with some better watches at a slightly higher price point on average over time. That differentiates you from the value customers and the value space and gets you into a more stable game over the long term. I put my money on the Ceramica in part having this function. That's all I had this time around. These kind of watches are so much fun for me to review because they are not your standard fare. This is not just a colorway or a bracelet update. This is about looking at what this kind of watch represents and what it means in the lineup of a brand like Formex's watches. What does it do to the price point? What does it do to the anchor? Why is it skeletonized? These are interesting questions, and hope you had fun listening to my video. Let me know what you think of the watch in the comments. Like, subscribe. Cheers.